When everything is marketing and marketing is everything, taglines and trends are just the tip of the proverbial iceberg. On the M Word, we're talking marketing and mission and the pursuit of what's personal. I'm your host, Jennifer Mulchandani, and you are listening to the M Word podcast presented by Arlington Strategy. Today's episode is all about the Super Bowl. Commercials, that is, and some about the game and halftime show, too, with guests Jennifer Bakos, a strategy consultant, and Greg Hamilton, owner and publisher of Arlington Magazine. We break down this year's Super Bowl commercials, trends, insights, and a recap of the best and worst ads from the 2025 Super Bowl broadcast. Enjoy. So this is 2 years in a row that I have invited wonderful guests here to talk about Super Bowl ads. We are the Monday marketing quarterbacks, if you will, and we did not go live. I'm going to blame Meta, but I want to welcome two of my wonderful, esteemed colleagues in the Arlington area, marketers who've been on the M Word in years past. We have Greg Hamilton, who is the owner and publisher of Arlington Magazine. And I have Jen Bakos, who is a brand strategist, marketing consultant who has worked with my team for a number of years and other businesses in the Arlington community and organizations. Welcome and thank you for joining the M Word post-Super Bowl commercial discussion today.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start easy. Greg, I'm going to let you go first. How's the game?
Well, I'm a Philadelphia area native, so it's not hard to figure out where my loyalties lie. So it was a very good day for the Hamiltons. And we finally found a use for our old Zach Ertz jersey. Our dog Millie wore it. She was our good luck charm. And just one thought on the game is I was optimistic going into the game, but it's Pat Mahomes and it's the Chiefs and it's Andy Reid, and you never know what you're going to get. So to have a beatdown like that was a fun game for me. I think boring for many, but very, very fun for us. So very exciting result.
I'm excited for you. And I will say, when I asked you eons ago, I said, I'd love to have you on this discussion today. And you said, well, Jennifer, if the Eagles actually make it to the Super Bowl, I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to pay attention to the commercials. Was that hard for you?
It was. I took notes and I had to ask people to quiet down because we were locked in on the game. And so then everyone would talk during the commercials. So I had to cheat a little bit. I watched a bunch of commercials today. And so I have my notes and I think I have my thoughts organized. It was tricky. I looked at my notes from last night and they're basically gibberish. Although there were definitely some ads last night that stood out. So
I can't wait to hear about those.
I think that's a sign of a good ad.
I think that is a sign of a good ad. Jen, how was the game for you?
It was fine. I mean, I was saying to Greg before we got on, I'm a lifelong Commanders fan. It's hard to root for the Eagles, but I think I kind of was at the end of the day last night. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say the game was boring necessarily. It was kind of fun to watch them get such a lead. But I did feel like the second half, was a little less, not as compelling as one that goes down to the wire. But it's always fun. It's like a fun, American tradition that we have.
Yeah. Well, great. And it's as a girl who grew up in Detroit and went to Lions games, like there's a moment there that I was really rooting and hoping that they would have made it for the first time ever, but that didn't happen. And so, I was a little agnostic in the game, and I found it slightly boring to watch it so one-sided, because when you don't have a team in there, you really want to see just good football, and I just saw a lot of sloppy football for the first half. But we are not here to talk so much about the game. Greg, I want to go back to what you said. It's like some things, even despite the gibberish notes from last night, some things stuck out in your brain. What were they in terms of the commercials?
Well, so the NFL flag football for girls flag ad appealed to me. I've coached girls flag football, and my youngest daughter, Julie, plays pretty competitive flag football and has for years. So Anything about girls in sports. With 3 daughters, I'm a sucker for it. And so that girls flag football ad for me was, again, I'm a sample size of one, but for me that was an amazing ad, very well done, almost like a little mini, sort of like a mini short story. And there were many elements of it that I thought were great. Like, my name's Brad, and she's like, I can read. And then she did the Saquon backwards jump, which was just classic. And I love that whole message, make it a varsity sport. I would love to see that happen. Unfortunately, it won't happen in time for Julie, but I think it would be great for girls everywhere. It's a really fun sport for girls.
Yeah, I mean, to me that ad was like, it was advocacy, right? And it was awareness. And I don't have daughters, and I don't play flag football, but I was left going, oh, is there resistance to it becoming a varsity sport? Like, I think the placement was fantastic, because I think you're so close to it, so it had meaning to you that way. But I think for those of us who just care about women's access issues too, more generally, it's like, I didn't even know this was a question, and is it a struggle, and does it need more advocacy and awareness? But
yeah, I mean, it's really smart from the NFL's perspective, with all the head injuries and concussions over time, and not protecting players and covering it up and all of that. The NFL really needs to change the narrative. And by broadening the sport and by embracing girls, so Julie each year competes in NFL sponsored regional tournaments, and it's really a cool thing. And if you win one of those regional tournaments and they're hosted by NFL teams, you wear that team's jersey to nationals. And there's NFL players there. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance. It's really cool. So, I mean, it's obviously marketing, but I feel like the NFL has authentically leaped into supporting flag football, especially girls flag. So it's going to be in the Olympics. It's a college sport now, and it's, I think, the fastest growing high school girls sport. I saw that stat recently. Basketball is declining, and girls flag is growing rapidly for girls. So it's smart. They're really leaning into it. And I have to also laugh at that when the girl threw the ball at the boy in the hallway, and the other girl goes, "Oh, right in the Jimmy Johnson."
That was funny.
That was really good too.
There were a lot of like cute little moments in that, like Chad, like calling him Chad.
Chad was just perfect.
Just funny. And it was like a good combination of humor and like a bit of pulling on the hearts, like the emotional piece, which I think made it really good.
Right.
Yeah, I think with the, back to advocacy and like just having good hooks, like to make you pay attention, like that was a longer ad too. There were a handful of ads that were not the 30-second spots, but they were clearly 45 or 60 seconds. And another one, sort of aimed at women, but not also aimed at men, and it was very compelling in my house. It was a breast cancer awareness ad, but when it started out, we were all like, what's this for? And I was like, bra company. It's got to be a bra. My 20-year-old and 16-year-old and 51-year-old male TV watcher companions were all like, ooh, I like this ad right from the start, long before you knew what it was for.
And then you feel a little ashamed at the end if you have that reaction.
Well, yes and no, but I feel like,
which was very effective, I thought.
So effective, because it pulls you in, and then you really want to know. And like, okay, well, if I've got to get there to sort of have awareness around, breast cancer prevention and wellness, and and I can draw in a bunch of people doing it and maybe a little bit of a bait and switch kind of way, I think it worked. But Jen, any thoughts you had on that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that commercial definitely, the double entendre, got your attention, right? And I figured I suspected what it was from the beginning, but yeah, I mean, it was. I think a lot of them that make a left turn are always, those commercials are always good. I mean, there's ones I can think of a few that are just run typically that, you think you're watching one thing, and then it sort of really diverts and
that's what makes it memorable.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought they did.
I'm sorry, Greg.
No, you go.
even that very short Dove ad. Is it not Dove? The soap. Is it Dove? Now I'm blanking. But anyhow, I think they've run this like campaign for a long time now about girls.
Girls who drop out of sports because of body awareness concerns.
Yeah, it's Dove. She's like, it's very short and it's fun and it's lighthearted and they've got that great, Springsteen song. And then, but it's got that, the sort of turn at the end, which is like, it's sad. And it's, even that small one, which is a campaign that's been going on a long time, like it just gets your attention. It is memorable because you're like, oh, it just makes you pause for a moment, which I think is.
Yeah. One other thought on the Novartis, the breast cancer awareness ad is, they very, in my opinion, smartly wove Haley Steinfeld into the ad, who's engaged to Josh Allen, the quarterback of the Bills. And at first I'm like, oh, it's because I have 3 daughters. I'm like, oh, it's the one from Pitch Perfect. I'm like, wait, she's engaged to Josh Allen. Then I thought, oh, that was clever. So I thought it was really, really smart the way they constructed that ad.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any others that stood out to you from stood out in the midst of all the celebration last night?
Is that for me or?
Yeah, that's for you, Greg.
Yeah. Well, again, I have 3 daughters, so you're going to see a theme here. The other sort of, I'd say my number 2 after the girls flag football ad was the Nike Whole Lot of Love.
Nike ad was great. That was a great ad.
You can't win, so win. And it was just, I love Led Zeppelin. What a great use of that song, and just all those women kicking ass. I'm like, this is so great. So, and Nike's just really good at that, creating sort of this, like atmospherics and this driving, like it gets your adrenaline going, and you're like, you have to pay attention to it. Everyone kind of stopped what they were doing and watched that ad.
Yeah,
right.
And Nike just has this way of like, it's a Nike ad. Like, it just has a quality to it. It's, yeah, I knew right away. I was like, oh, this is a Nike ad. And I thought it was one of the better ones of the night.
It's interesting. Everything we've talked about so far is like, we think about the hooks in advertising, or marketing in general. You can educate, you can entertain, you can, you can pull on emotional heartstrings. Like, these are all like things that got, they're more in the heart. These nobody's mentioned humor yet, right? Yeah. A little humor. There was some humor in the hooks, but the underlying message of those compelling ads were really heartfelt for us, independently. But where was humor last night? Is there anything that like made you guys laugh?
Yeah, I have tons of thoughts, but go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, I think I was thinking a lot about it about the humor versus the emotional ones, because I think most of my favorites were emotional. I don't know if there's so much pressure on these Super Bowl ads that it's such a journey that they're going on with a lot of the humor that it almost like, and so many of them, it's like, whoa, I'm not even sure what you're trying to achieve there. Like
flying mustaches, flying eyebrows.
I liked the mustache one, to be honest, because I think that's such a brand thing for Pringles, and it was sort of funny and it was quick. But I think about the ads that I like that are sort of funny on like just sort of, not non-Super Bowl ads. And they're usually, I think they just go over the top with the Super Bowl. And so sometimes the humor could be a little more, not that it has to be more subtle, but I liked one of the ones that I thought was funny. It was the Matthew McConaughey. Let me find it on my list. It was that the Super Bowl was like trying to get you to eat. I thought that one was funny.
Hilarious. Yeah, that was a good one. A pigskin.
Yeah, and like the Buffalo Bill. There was a lot of humor in that one. It was funny. I think I do like Matthew McConaughey. I have to say right now I'm having to look on my list here because I cannot remember who it was for. So that's not great. But but I did think it was funny.
Another, if I could interrupt, another good line from that ad was, because he was dressed up as old coaches and old McConaughey.
Yes.
And so he comes walking off, and Perry goes, "Do I have to be called the fridge?" He's like, "Yes."
Yes. A lot of like fun old stuff. It was Uber Eats, I think.
Yeah.
And there was like a ton of star power in that ad, which I'm always like, wow, how much do these things cost? Aside from the usual. And it was just creative and funny and memorable. So that was one that I liked. I thought it was like well constructed. I like some of that, like the seal one, which is like funny but super weird, but kind of quirky. I don't know.
I didn't like that.
The sloth ad, I liked the Coors Light sloth ad, like a case of the Mondays. And I like how it, like they have the product packaging that's tying into all of this. So I do like that. But I think some of them are just so odd. And I think some of the funny ones, you really have to know something. You have to know the actor. Like there was the thing about the smiling. You got to, and I'm going to have to look again, my notes, but you kind of had to know that those actors were sort of known for being kind of harsh and not smiley. Some of the stories like definitely require a lot of like audience knowledge, which I always find I'm always curious about that, I guess.
Yeah. That was the Aubrey Plaza was in that ad about like being gruff, right?
Yeah, and she is like that if you know her, but if you don't know her, then I don't know if you get it. And yeah,
exactly. I mean, the star power ones, I felt like, there were some for sure that stood out. The Harrison Ford, which I was a long, slow, emotional ad. Was that for Chevy? I just remember the line where he's like,
Jeep, Jeep,
where he's like, and my name is Ford.
Yeah, which is.
But I thought it was well done. But in Jen last year we talked about the Dunkin' ads. It's like their ad was, it's early in the game when everyone is like, really excited about sitting for 4 hours to watch football and ads. And I felt like there were so many references in that it was almost like you didn't know where to look. Like you have to but what I was struck at was, and my kids even said, like, where was Matt Damon in that ad? Like, it was like he's always in that ad. But the use of Jeremy Strong, which is the actor who is in Succession.
And he's known for that method acting.
But even like just like the yes, in this commercial, like is it like sinking, and I just kept thinking of like some just horrific scenes in Succession where like his character really went through some dark times, and there's like this deep kind of like reference point to that cultural role that he played in Succession, even, but that one just was like, it was fun and star-powered and funny. And I feel like they've been doing this theme for many years now as a brand of these really big, fun commercials. But this year, like I was like, whoa, they went after Starbucks so directly in that ad, like they've never done before by having, and some people in my family missed it, but like, having all those other characters dressed in green, which actually some people in my family are colorblind, so that was a little lost on them, which made it harder to follow. But the whole like, when can I come and get my name misspelled on your coffee, on my coffee cup? Like all of the things that like are the cultural reference of Starbucks I thought that was really kind of bold that they went after them so directly. Because most, besides the Coke and Pepsi, which I didn't, if they ran ads last night, I didn't see them. Historically, they often have gone after each other's brands very directly in advertising. But other than that, you don't typically see brands spend $8 million, $16 million on an ad buy and then go after their competition directly in their face. And they did, which I thought was really unique.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Dunkin' vibe. I always loved the Matt Damon, Ben Affleck vibe. Matt Damon was in a different commercial for Stella Artois, which that was a funny one that I really did like. And he makes a joke about Ben Affleck in that commercial. So it does get back to this, like you have to have a certain knowledge, but if you do, you really feel like you're in on it, and it's it can be successful.
Yeah, he goes, Matt Damon famous? He goes, nah, more like Ben Affleck famous. He's like, oh. And then when he kicks the ball, he's like, oh, it's just this thing I do. And they're like, you still got it.
He's like, let's talk. But
can we just go back to the Harrison Ford, the Jeep ad real quick?
Yeah.
I mean, it was, pride is this, pride is not that, pride is a terrible driver, freedom isn't free, our differences can be our strength. It was like there was some serious morality, and I felt like direct shots at what's happening in our country right now, like the anti-Semitism ad with Snoop Dogg and Tom Brady. I was like, all right, we're getting some morality here that's not so subtle, which I thought was interesting.
But I guess I feel like they didn't put much of a stake in the ground. Like, I guess for me, as someone who's like fairly like passionate and political, like the Tom Brady Snoop ad, I felt it was like, why can't we all just get along? And I didn't like, so I guess it was, I mean, that's the vibe that I got from it.
It's dangerous, I think, to be really direct.
Totally. But then it's sort of like, well, why bother? I don't know. And so I guess my question is, what is your message? Like, are you really critiquing the things that are going on in the country, or is it just the sort of like, I don't know. For me, like that's a little bit lost on me, but I get that is probably appealing to a wider market.
I don't think it's going to do anything. But
No.
I give him no, but I give him credit for trying. Yeah, I was thinking about themes from last night, and I wrote down girl power, and I don't mean girl in a pejorative like whatever.
Yeah.
It's girl power, aliens, flying facial hair, Tom Brady, and morality. And maybe morality is not the wrong word, but
no, but I know what you mean.
Be
like
nice,
values.
values. Be a kind person, and
Yeah, I mean that came out in the Rocket Mortgage, the "Take Me Home" ad.
Yeah,
I would love to talk about this ad.
Yes, let's talk about this ad because, it was one of those ones where, again, we're like, who's this for? I was like, this is a West Virginia tourism ad.
Everybody thought it was because, come on, why did they use that song?
I don't know, but like,
Take Me Home.
Take Me Home.
I got that at the end.
But then you have the entire stadium, the whatever they did for that ad placement to then go live in the stadium and have people singing the song from their ad while Rocket, their logo, is flashing on the digital screens. It's like, that was the most integrated ad buy of the night that it did take the viewer on an emotional journey, even if you had no idea what the hell Rocket was.
But that's my problem with it, though. It's like, I didn't even know what emotional journey I was going on. They had different brands in there. They had like the U.S. Army, like they featured that. So then you're like, wait, is this an Army ad? Then they had a moving truck that had a brand on the side. And I just personally don't know, and I could be wrong about this, if Rocket has the brand equity to just like put, like it didn't even say Rocket Mortgage, it just said Rocket. And so you had to make all those connections for yourself. And I thought the song, I liked it because of course everyone loves that song, right? And it plays at your emotions, but I don't know if the connections were made. And so then I didn't know, like from a brand standpoint, if it was, I just don't know if it.
I felt like they were making a huge assumption that everyone knows that Rocket is a mortgage
right?
company.
Yeah, I completely
And I'm like,
agree.
ooh, I would have made that clear.
Same.
But then again, no one's hired me to make ads for the Super Bowl, but I do think sometimes you just need to be clear about what you're.
I totally agree.
And I think it's, to your point, taking a left turn, sort of zagging at the end is great, but you got to bring it home. And people are like, oh, Rocket. I bet half the people watching that ad were like, what is Rocket?
Still don't know what Rocket is.
What is Rocket?
Yeah.
That was a really nice ad for something about a rocket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Greg, your themes that you sort of, you notated, like I wrote the word advocacy down, which I think comes up.
That's a better word. Yep.
I mean, or values is like, I think when you talk about the morality, it's like, and I talk about this every year when I have these conversations, like it was many years ago, it was in Trump 1's administration when 84 Lumber ran an ad on the Super Bowl, and it directly hit on the whole build a wall. And their ad was very direct around like, we build the ladder over the wall, we build the bridge between the walls. Like they were very direct in their view of what the political conversation was. And I didn't see that very much last night. I mean, the advocacy was much more singular issue, like the hims and hers, which was really talking about, we are a country that's gone sideways on healthcare and access to things. And and they use this ad specifically for their health delivery service, their healthcare provider service, but they did it in a way that was very advocacy oriented. The Lay's commercial that was like, this beautiful, I found it a little slow. The girl plants her potato and all this, and it was all pro family farmer, but I was a little struck too. It's like, really? Because like in this current political climate, when we talk about farming, like we're talking about agriculture, we're talking about immigrants, we're talking about migrant workers, like, but that was not part of this.
And we just read $4 billion out of the farm economy with what we're doing at USAID. So there's that thread as well.
Yeah. So
I agree that like I don't feel like there weren't too many like stakes in their ground as far as like that positioning went, and of course that's disappointing. But I liked the another one that I loved that was sort of like not really quite along like those lines, but it was another sort of like emotional one that was actually maybe my favorite one of the night. It was the Pfizer cancer drug with the kid, I'm going to knock you out, and it kind of
that was good.
Along, and like just like an empowerment kind of way, and then at the end it got a little bit more emotional. But I thought like that, like a lot of it was sort of like a lot of unspoken stuff, right? Like who's going to pick up the slack? I mean, just like in light of like what's going on at NIH and, I guess we're going to need these private companies to step up and do some of this stuff. And so I guess there's like a little bit of hope in that. And, of course, like just the message is great. It was a strong position for Pfizer, but I don't know. Yeah, I think a lot of the messaging that I think was around the first time, I guess 8 years ago or whatever it was, is sort of was missing for me last night.
Yeah. So is there anything that you were hoping to see that just didn't happen?
Well, one ad I wrote down that appealed to me just because it was outrageous and funny was the Ram truck Glen Powell 3 Bears ad.
Gosh,
with the long hair.
Oh, yeah.
He slays the dragon, tastes like chicken.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Because sometimes it's like, all right, I've got the messages, like the values, the advocacy. Sometimes ads try so hard to be funny. It's just weird. Like the seal ad or the Tubi, the kid born with the cowboy hat. I was like, what is happening?
And there were multiples of those. That was one of the few ones that played a few times.
Right.
I didn't get that.
I think Nate Bargatze's hilarious, but that Uber Eats ad, I'm like, this just is not working.
Agree.
But that Ram truck 3 Bears ad was funny, I thought.
The one of the Bud Light ads, like the cul-de-sac guy, that was funny.
That was funny.
And then like they had Peyton Manning, like they came like cut from commercial, and he was like at the same kind of cooler. So I do like some of those that.
Who were the 2 guys in the Bud Light ad, the cul-de-sac ad? Where are my notes? Oh, Post Malone.
Okay.
And who's the other guy? I recognize him, but I don't know who he is.
I didn't know who he was.
Okay. I think he's somebody to someone. It was good.
That one was funny and sort of like went well with their brand, I think.
And they did do that carryover into sort of live placement when they went back live to the game. And that's the only one, besides like Nike's, which sort of, they have their thematics throughout the whole year. But the cul-de-sac ad, I saw like, and I don't even know if they're like literally other ads in the series or if it's just outtakes and social media content that was created. But I've seen a lot in the weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, like these little clips where it was the guy whose name we can't remember saying to Post Malone, like, no, we can't actually drink the beer in the ad. Like, only when Post Malone was like, are you serious? Like, and then it goes black, So that one, like, I was like, oh, there's going to be something with Post Malone in the Super Bowl, but you kind of didn't know what the ad was going to be based on the clips that I was seeing on social.
Yeah. And then like a new-ish tactic that a lot of these companies take is releasing the ad prior to the Super Bowl. So I know like the Google Gemini ad.
The dad. Yeah, that was a good one. I have that heavily marked.
Yeah, I mean I think it ranked well, and like they like somehow they ranked them, but I think it ranked pretty well.
And the longer version, which is not what they showed during the Super Bowl, there's a slightly longer version, is even more impactful. It's Google or Pixel 9. Is that the?
I was thinking it was Gemini. I thought it was the AI, like
some Google thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if it like 100% totally like explained the value proposition to me, but I think that just as an ad that you want to watch, it was good.
So I Googled most famous Super Bowl ads of all time just to see what would show up. And Forbes has a list. The Apple 1984 ad was number 1. The 9/11 tribute ad, the Clydesdales, the Budweiser ad.
Oh, that's a great ad.
The number 3 was Coca-Cola, Mean Joe Green. Here you go, kid. Throws him his jersey.
Yeah.
Number 4, Budweiser with the "What's up?"
What's up?
Which I had a lot of fun rewatching. And then number 5 was Volkswagen, the Force, the little kid dressed as
that's a great ad.
And he's just trying to like get the dryer to go on and get the and then he goes out to his dad's car and his dad's hitting the little, the key fob to make the car like beep. Yeah. And the kid's like, "Oh my God."
And like I remember all these ads that you're talking about.
But no Apple this year, right? No Apple.
Yeah.
No Volkswagen. No Coca-Cola? Was there a Coca-Cola ad?
I didn't see Coke or Pepsi.
Nope.
Yeah. We did have Budweiser. That was it. Now, we had lots of technology ads, all AI, right?
I mean, I loved the Chat GPT ad, though. Like,
yeah, it was,
you did?
I did. It was...
What was it?
What I loved was I was like, I was like, this is... I'm not watching, like, terrible, like, cartoony crap like the Red Bull commercial. Like, it was, like, using graphics to just get my attention, simple black and white. And if the point of a commercial is to like make me not like pick up my phone and get distracted, like it did that. It held my attention. I was like, that was eye-catching.
Yeah, a writer named Mike Hale, who writes for the New York Times, ranked the ads, and that was his number 1. The ChatGPT ad. Yeah, I was a little surprised it was number 1. But yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, it's one guy's opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But some of the ads I liked the most were buried on his list. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And so much of it is like we all take our breaks when there's a level of fatigue of like, okay, being like, okay, I'm going to get wowed by the next one and the next one and the next one. But I thought the ads started out pretty darn slow. I mean, Duncan was a big hit early in the game, but the Martha Stewart Skechers ad was like awful. I thought. So bad. And then Can
I ask you a question? Who is their target audience? People over 70? Because they also had Andy Reid. And my sister was like, "Oh, Dad, our dad is 96." She's like, "He wears Skechers." I'm like, "What?" I thought, like, who are they appealing to?
I don't
know. Skechers is weird. Like, their whole thing is a little bit confusing. I know, like, I've asked my kids, like, we're looking for shoes, and I'll be like, we'll see Skechers. No, they do not.
They won't be caught dead in them.
They will not be caught dead in Skechers.
Interesting. So yeah, it must be the senior citizen crowd.
But then they have like.
It looks like middle-aged, like their commercials. It's like Tony Romo. It's like, you don't have to bend over to put your shoe on. And you're like, good Lord. Am I that bad? Like, but that's like one of their values. Right. Like, you don't have to bend over.
If you have a bulging disc, this is the shoe for you. Great.
Martha Stewart's like such a weird, like, she's this like cultural icon from not current, but she's had this weird friendship with Snoop
Dogg
and has sort of reimagined herself. So I think there is like some relevance to the younger generation, but that I just thought that I was like poorly executed even. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't like that. And then shortly after that, I wrote down, and there was a couple other ads I didn't write down, but I felt like there was a string of like, they were violent ads with open. And I kept thinking, I keep seeing articles about the number of young girls who've turned to football in the past few years because the Taylor Swift effect. Whether you believe it or not, they're noticing that they're getting more young female viewers, And I kept thinking, I wouldn't want my like 9-year-old daughter to see this YouTube TV. It was so violent and it was it was like these medieval weapons being used to like smack into people. And it was so off-putting to me. I thought, oh, I hope this is not the trend for tonight. So luckily it was
what was
not
it
a ton of
for?
YouTube TV.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
I must have missed that one.
Yeah. Well, couple things. One, I got a note from my team. We've been live on Facebook this whole time. So
wonderful.
Go figure. Good thing that we are behaving ourselves. Two, we're running up on time, and we have to talk about the halftime show. When you were watching, did you watch the halftime show? And when you were, did you know what you were watching?
Not exactly.
My kids love Kendrick Lamar.
Mine too.
And it starts, and I hadn't read much about, I mean, I read about the Eagles like a lot. I could probably be an on-air, analyst for the Eagles. But I didn't really follow what was happening with the Super Bowl, the production.
Mm-hmm.
So I go, who's that guy? and Catherine and Julie were like, Dad. Catherine goes, I've liked Kendrick Lamar since the 7th grade. I'm like, it doesn't mean I recognize him. I wasn't sure what I was watching. They got a lot of people out of that car. That was kind of neat. At the very beginning, the clown car.
Yeah.
It's not music I identify with at all. I'm obviously showing my age. So I really
was Skechers, Greg.
Yeah, I'm going to start buying Skechers. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't, that music does not appeal to me at all. Sounds like he's won a Pulitzer, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
He seems extremely talented, but I don't. And I typically, when there's a halftime show, that's when I drift off to get a beer and another plate of wings or something. So I'm probably the wrong guy to ask.
Jen, what about you?
I watched it. It's not my favorite music either, but we listen to it a lot in our house because of my son. So I try to keep an open mind, and I obviously know, like, not like us. I think there was a lot of like political statements that I missed because I just find it hard to hear the lyrics. Yeah. Again, I sound old, but it was just like.
I think the audio was off, though. I think that was reported even after the fact that there was some mic issues.
Okay. So I couldn't quite tell 100% what was being said. And so I feel like I missed like a ton of the symbolism that people are talking about today. I read about some of it afterward and heard about some of the statements. And so they're obviously making some pretty political statements.
Yeah.
Which is, an interesting and amazing choice, I think, particularly given the, the audience of one who was there. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, so not dissimilar to both of you. Like at the time, so we listen to Kendrick Lamar a lot in my house because of my children. And I have an appreciation for that music, but I don't know it. But they were so excited for this show. Because they're like, he's playing Not Like Us. Like this is the Drake diss song. Like there's like all this like pop culture sort of behind the scenes stuff that the kids follow. But it was like at one point, Serena Williams is dancing in that on stage. And reading the commentary today and unpacking so much of it, it became, and I was talking to my kids this morning because they were also reading the commentary. Because so much of that song was not broadcast because it couldn't be because the lyrics are not, family friendly. And so, they were waiting to see what things would be said, included in the song, what were not going to be, because, there's lawsuits from slander and all this kind of stuff. But it took me a minute when I was like, the entire cast, every single person on that stage is a person of color. It felt really meaningful to me seeing them clearly representing the colors of the flag and the physical flag, and having Samuel L. Jackson narrate as Uncle Sam. Like, I was like, I don't know in this moment. I'm not analytically quick enough to know what it's saying, but I know this is really important. And today I've read so many articles and I've watched commentaries. I even watched SZA, who performed with Kendrick Lamar, who is also a huge artist in my house on repeat. Her husband did a video last night where he was nearly in tears talking about the powerful, he says the revolution started today. And he went through the litany of like what these things were meaning to the Black community and to sort of just the political movement that trying to, take back their own power, right? It's like, I don't know. It's like in hindsight, like I'm so moved by what I saw. Like now I need to rewatch the performance because now I might pick up on more of it. But then even just like the Nintendo, the whole stage set being the Nintendo controller. And then I was reading an article that was, there was a moment where it was like the lights and the beat and sort of what was lighting up was a cheat code from Grand Theft Auto. I mean, this is one article I read. It might be wrong, but it was a cheat code from one of these kids' video games. It's not for kids. That symbolized when you load up all your lives, where you have full power, full health, they call it in these video games. And it was like these subtle things that were all about empowerment. And the Serena Williams dancing was her doing the same dance that she was sanctioned at, like on the world stage when it was her signature little dance move that she would be sanctioned at in her sport. And so I just think I was like, okay, well maybe some of the politics was sorely lacking from the ads, but I feel like it was pretty powerful in that halftime show.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely worth going back and reading a little bit about it today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All of that was lost on me.
Well, I do wonder, I don't really have any, at one point I'm like, is this like broadly appealing to this audience? And then I was like, who cares? I mean, I don't know, like, particularly like sort of in hindsight, I'm reading some of the just like critiques of it and stuff. I think it's cool to have something different, and it does appeal to a lot of people. My son, the music critic, said that Kendrick Lamar, his quote was, "Kendrick Lamar is my goat." So,
well, and I mean, who are they trying to get to embrace the NFL? Younger people, women. Yeah. So smart. I mean, if it's lost on me, who cares? I'm still gonna watch. And
they usually are like pretty old. I don't know, but like we've had Bruno Mars, I guess we've had The Weeknd. So some of them have been new, but then they also have some really kind of like classic rock folks.
But they're not going to trot out, REM or Wilco or one of the. They're not going to put bands out there that are bands I love.
No, but I mean, I do feel like,
and that's fine. Like I don't expect that. I'd be surprised.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it seemed like a really well done product. Like it just looked good.
I forgot about the Samuel L. Jackson role. That was cool. He's just so iconic. He shows up everywhere. Good for him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And he does sort of build that bridge, because I do think people from like across most generations, like we all know Samuel L. Jackson. He's been around a while.
Pulp Fiction to the Avengers to Snakes on a Plane to like you name it. He's kind of ubiquitous.
Exactly. So just to close us out here, any parting thoughts on the commercials? Good, bad, ugly? How would you frame this year as a monolith?
Do you think they were even weirder? Like, do they get a little weirder every year, or is that just my imagination? I've not quantified this, and of course that's a subjective thing, but like the tongue flying around and
that was weird. That's what I sort of meant in the beginning about. There's so much pressure.
I get it. You're trying to break through. There's a million ads, so you're trying to break through. So you have to do something.
I guess so.
To catch people's attention.
I guess so. Like I think about ads that I really like and think are funny just normally. Like I love almost every auto insurance company has a good campaign going. But like the progressive ads, I mean, they may be getting a little bit old, but like turning into your parents, saying like, those are funny, but they're not trying so hard. Like, I think about the Doritos ad I saw last night. It was so random, like tongue, the weird skin cowboy hat thing. I don't know. I think there's a way to break through a little more.
I did, although I think, like most Americans, I feel like Tom Brady is totally overexposed. But that Duracell ad, when they had to change his batteries, do you remember that one?
Yep.
I do.
And then they're like, Tom, how are you feeling? He goes, why has everyone been asking me that since the roast? And then the guy's like, oh, Gronk's down. I got to go.
Yeah. that was really funny.
That was very funny. Well, I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about it with smart people. I appreciate both of you joining me on what turned out to be a live broadcast of our Breaking Down the Super Bowl ads. And look forward to doing this again.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Go Birds, fly, Eagles, fly.
Congrats.
Good job. Good. Congrats to your team, Greg.
Thank you. It's a very exciting day.
Thanks for listening to The M Word. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Subscribe and never miss a podcast. Visit arlingtonstrategy.com for more. The M Word is an Arlington Strategy production hosted by Jennifer Mulchandani. Our theme music is by Moochie. Graphic design by Kayla Fagan and Emily Rare. Sound engineering and editing by Ben Mulchandani.